All right, so good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jesse, and it is a pleasure to be back, joined with the Toronto Zoo on behalf of Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants as we continue our summer series featuring the Climate Action Learning and Leadership team. We've been with Kim Cobb, Dr. Kim Cobb, to learn about corals and how they're affected by climate. We've done butterfly programs, highlighted some of the zoo's amazing initiatives to help reduce and mitigate climate change. And today we are joined live by call interns Farhan and Kenya, who are going to dive us in with the greater one-horned rhino, one of my very favorite animals at the zoo, and I'm so excited to introduce them and to show off one of the coolest creatures that the Toronto Zoo has to offer. So without further ado, I'll bring them into the broadcast. Hello, guys.
Hey. Hello.
And I'm so excited to dive in for our audience today. We're broadcasting live to the Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants and Toronto Zoo YouTube channel, so hopefully we got a wide audience today, and tell us a little bit about what you guys get to do today.
Awesome. Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Farhan.
My name is Kenya, and today we are with Zookeeper Angie, and we are part of the CALL program at the Toronto Zoo.
So what is CALL program? CALL program, Climate Action Learning and Leadership. We're part of the government-funded grant program that brings young people to Toronto Zoo, just like us, to learn about conservation and climate change. We are 2 of 4 call interns today. Gonna talk about rhinos and some of the challenges that they face. Take it away, Kenya.
Today we are with the greater one-horn rhino family. We have 3 greater one-horn rhinos at the Toronto Zoo. Vishnu, the father, was born in 2003. Ashikiran, the mother, was born in 2004, and little Kiran was born early January 2018. Vishnu, the father, separated to mimic the natural wildlife characteristics, since they are solitary animals.
Yeah, the greater one-horned rhino, also known as the Indian Rhino, is one of the largest rhino species. One of the widespread across the entire northern part of the India subcontinent. Rhino population has plummeted due to illegal hunting for their horn. This pushed the species very close to extinction, and by 20th century, around only 200 individuals remained in the wild. However, the recovery of one-horned rhino is one of the greatest success stories in Asia, because the strict restriction and protection from India and Nepalese government, they were able to bring the species back from 200 individuals to 3,700 species.
Yay!
And the greater Warnhorn rhino is identified by its black horn, about 8 to 25 inch long, and the gray-brown hide and skin fold, as you can see in their neck, which gives it armor plate-like appearance. From the evolutionary point of view, they needed the skin to protect themselves from predators. As you can see, it's very strong. Even if they are grabbed by the predator, they can shake them off and run away. Even contrary to popular belief, they are very big creature, but they are very light on their feet. If they needed to, they can run up to 50 kilometers per hour to basically go somewhere safe. But they cannot maintain that for a long time. But if you're wondering how much they weigh, the adult big rhino, they weigh about 4,000 to 6,000 pounds, and they height about 5.75 feet to 6.5 feet, in almost like an adult male. If you can see comparison, we're almost a similar height, and their length is about 10 to 12 feet. So they are big creature. If you want to have real life comparison, just think about it as a car. They're like a big car, but they're animals. And they're quite magnificent. If you actually had the chance to see them in real life, you gotta see it, because it's completely different from what you see in the pictures. So, Kenya, take it away.
So they are found in India and Nepal. Greater one-horned rhinos live in jungle areas and grasslands. They primarily live in marshy lowlands with tall grass, thick forests, and swamps. The rhinos spend a significant amount of time during the day wallowing in the mud or marshy pools. They need wallows or swamps to keep cool from the heat. So Farhan, take it away with what they eat.
Yeah, as you can see, rhinos, what I'm saying, are browsers. They like to immerse themselves in the water, where they also browse on aquatic plants. Their diet mainly consists of grass, fruit, leaves, branches from trees, and shrubs. And one of the interesting things I want to point out to everyone, do you see how they reach out with their tongue? Think about it as extension of themselves, just like our arms. because when they grab like bushes from the tall trees, or Angie, if you can you pull up a fruit on top to demonstrate what I'm saying?
Up here, Raj.
Do you see?
Oh, I'm cheating. Come up here.
Yeah, do you see how they reach out with their tongue? It's just like humans with how we do with our hand. If you want to grab something, we reach out with arm. For them, it's just like that. They grab branches from like high up, and also when they want to grab food, they reach out with their tongue, which is very interesting. Upper lip. Yeah. Sorry.
That's okay.
Their upper lip.
Upper lip.
So it's quite interesting if you want to see it. Even though they're carnivores, they actually have very strong teeth. They mainly use it to fight for when they want to get mate or defend themselves, because sometimes they get very territorial. And Kenny's going to talk about the reproduction cycle.
Yeah, so female rhino gestation period is approximately 15 to 16 months, and a female will give birth every 2 to 3 years and have one calf as an offspring.
Yeah, and their activity take place mostly in the early morning, late afternoon, and evening. The middle of the day is commonly spent resting in the shade or rolling in the mud, just like we have in Toronto Zoo. The reason for that is protect their skin from the sun, and also protect it from different bug bites they get. Even though their skin like appear as very tough, like a rock, right? But it's not as like tough as we think. It is tough, but it is also sensitive. As you can see, they do have a lot of mark of bug bite. So to protect them from it in the nature or in the wild, because they don't have human taking care of them in the wild, they go into wallows to protect themselves, or basically cover in a sheet of mud that should protect them, but not always does it. Some are more pesky than others. And Kenya is going to talk about some of the challenges they face in the wild.
So since they need walls to keep cool, climate change is affecting rhinos dramatically. The change in temperature and climate has changed their natural food cycle. Instead of spending time searching for food, they often spend more time looking for places to cool off. This is especially hard on their nutrition and reproductive cycle. During dry seasons, rhinos like to wallow in mud holes. Climate change is causing temperatures to rise, which are causing droughts. Droughts are causing rhinos to not be able to cool off from harsh, dry weather and dying from disease.
Yeah, like even though they were brought back from close to extinction, they still faces the similar challenge like climate change and still illegal poaching. Because you can see like their horn is magnificent. That's like one of the main characteristic of them. That's why a lot of people want it, even though it doesn't have any value. Because like their horn is made from keratin, which is basically same protein as our nail and hair. If you ever wanted to feel rhino's horn but didn't have the chance, just touch your fingernail. It's basically same as that. It's quite beautiful. That's why a lot of people want it. Look at that. It's so beautiful. Unfortunately, I don't have any food. Look at that. It's so beautiful. It's quite magnificent, honestly. Like if you get the chance to see them in real life, and support them, like also like like different like conservation program that helps those species brought back to life. Even though us human has caused it to go into extinction, we are also some of us who love it, like me, my favorite animal, by the way. Like we don't want it to go into extinction. We want to see more of those in the wild. We want them to like thrive in the wild. That's why like we have to prevent it. Like, and how can we do it? Like Kenny is going to tell more about it.
You can visit International Rhino Foundation, visit the website to learn more about rhinos and what you can do to help. You can also donate to any rhino conservation programs that are out there.
Yeah, just like Toronto Zoo. Like Toronto Zoo played one of the most important role into like fighting and preserving them. They actually Karen, the mother, actually gave birth to like two of the animals. One is Karen, and other one. Andy, do you know what is the other one?
His name is Nandu.
Nandu, yes. Nandu. See, like because of those efforts, even though they are really like beautiful and big, they are going out of the wild because of those illegal poaching. So whatever you can like learn about it, like first educate ourselves, then we can do different things to help them. So thank you for listening. And if you have any question, you can send them out. And me and Kenny are going to try our best to answer them. And definitely we have Angie with us, the rhino expert. She definitely can answer some of your complicated, burning, like desire to know question. So, go for it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, guys. I love your passion for rhinos, for wildlife, and for highlighting all these amazing things today. A really exciting 10 minutes in our afternoon. I have to defer the first question. It's a personal one, straight to Angie. Can you get that belt buckle? It's the best belt buckle ever. I love it.
I had it made.
Oh, this isn't something you're saying. Okay, so to the zoo marketing team who is watching this, you guys should get that belt buckle to sell them in the shop. I'd buy one instantly. I don't know. Very excited. Oh, very cool. Cool, guys. So yes, a call out to anyone on YouTube if you are tuning in. If you have any questions about rhinos, if you're super keen, please do share them. We'd love to take all your questions. But what I want to start with is their favorite food. We got the chance to feed some vegetables today. You guys, Farhan, Kenya, do you know what their favorite food is? Do you get a chance to see that today?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And I think for that kind of question, Angie probably knows the best because she does take care of them a lot. And I did see them eating many different foods. So Angie, what do you think their favorite food is? They like the most?
So these guys are a mega herbivore. So they only eat vegetables or produce, grass. We feed these guys free choice hay. When that basically means they can eat as much or as little as they want, and we will keep shoving it in. Because the hay is dead, it's dead grass, it's lacking a lot of vitamins and minerals. So also on a daily basis, we give them a pellet. It's a little cube-shaped cookie. And that has all of the vitamins and minerals added back into it that the hay is lacking. So it's kind of a supplement for them. And then what I was feeding them out of the bucket are some treats. These guys get a couple different types of produce that we use for training as well as enrichment. Because it tastes good, it encourages them to train. Right? Delicious. Some of the produce that you saw me feeding were carrots, apples, bananas, romaine lettuce, and today they actually also had some pineapple. So that's a fun treat for them. Yeah. So hay is their main food source. What do they like the most? Of course, the nice sugary produce. Which they get small quantities. They don't get free choice of the produce.
Okay, not pineapple every day. We don't want to spoil them too much. Perfect. I'm curious for people that are tuning in, and this is directly for Farhan and Kenya, the call program. So you guys are interns in the call program. Could you speak a little bit about what it's about, what you've had the chance to learn over the summer?
Yeah, so basically call program, just as I mentioned before, is basically a program funded by government to bring a lot of young people like us to the zoo to learn more about the conservation effort. So nice. Me, Kenya, and two other intern, Noel and Nubat, we all had the chance to actually go around different sections of the zoo to basically like understand and like mimic or like some of the duties like different section provide. For example, we get to have Repo Lab where we like to talk about some of the other way to conserve. We actually get to directly shadow the keepers to basically go like what they do in daily to daily basis. We actually also take part in it too to more learn about like some of the things like those animal faces challenge and how they are also adapting in the zoo setting and what they like eating, like some of the things we can do to like help them. So it's basically like try to like talk about and tie it in with the climate change because it is happening and it's rapidly changing our environment and how different animals are affected by it. It's basically different science as well. So everything comes together about like learning everything we can about conservation and different science behind it to basically like teach our community, do a project that go back to our community to teach them about something similar happening, like what's happening, what they can do to better ourselves, what they can do as a community to support those animals so they don't go extinct.
Right on. Very, very cool. I'm jealous. That sounds like a fantastic program, and I hope there's many opportunities for more students to do it in the future. I know your two colleagues that are just off camera will be joining us in a couple of days for our polar bear program, which is really exciting too. So nice to have this opportunity to share your expertise and all the passion and learning you guys have had with our broader community. I'm curious, you talked about rhino conservation. One of the big things that we hear about with rhino conservation, I think it was touched upon in this talk, was the fact that people covet their horns. Could you speak again to what their horns are made of and why they might not really be worth coveting?
Yeah, because just like I mentioned before, they're made of keratin. Like you can see, like same as our fingernail and our hair. It's like, so it's basically since like in some of the Asian culture they used to believe they used to have some sort of medicinal purposes. But unfortunately, due to advanced or understanding of science, we understand that keratin doesn't have anything that
Right.
actually provide medicinal purpose, right? So ultimately, they were just cut down for pointless purposes. But nowadays, they're collected in the black market for trophy. So basically, in people who want to collect it, they just pay for it and they're illegally poached and sold into the black market. Unfortunately, that's still a problem. That was a problem that drove them into extinction, and there's still a problem that is causing their population to drop because rhino is like a big creature. They cannot really have many children very quickly. So losing even one big adult one is a huge loss to their population and genetic diversity we're losing. It's quite sad to see that. That's why we all need to come together and do something about it because we have the power to change it, and why not, right? Diversity is important. We may not think it, they're just rhino, but they are providing a lot of benefits for a lot of different places in the jungle, in the natural world. So that's something we should learn about. That's why I always put emphasis on learning. Just learn, even if you cannot donate with money or anything. Just learn. Try to do support. Try to maybe volunteer a little bit in the zoo or different places where they actually have this conservation program.
Yeah. I think that's such an important message. It's something that we harp on in a lot of our conservation programs, is that if people are empowered, if they know what's going on, then they can speak to their friends, their family, they can take action personally, whether that's in the products they buy or where they choose to go. We've got an audience on the zoo YouTube channel that all wants to come to the zoo and see the rhinos in person. So your actions today, already we've inspired people to come learn and keep the excitement going. So I think that's really powerful, and I appreciate that message. I'm curious, this is a question we're going to get the exact opposite of probably in a couple of days for the polar bear program, but what do the rhinos do in the winter? Obviously in India, it doesn't necessarily get freezing cold all the time where they come from. So in the winter time, do they have an indoor enclosure? How do we keep them happy and healthy and warm?
Yeah, so for me, I get to spend most of the time in the summer. So unfortunately, I'm not expert on the subject, but I'm pretty sure Andy, she's our expert.
So we do have an indoor habitat for the greater one-horned rhinos. You're right. They don't love the cold for a long time. They can go outside, and our parameters basically is if we've had a mild winter and there hasn't been a lot of rain where there's a lot of ice in the paddock, then they can go outside for a few hours, especially if it's a nice sunny day. We're not going to put them outside if there's a wind chill. They don't have the hair needed to kind of protect from freezer burn, frostbite. So they don't spend a ton of time outside, but they do actually love to play in the snow. I've got some great photos of them rolling around and having it all on their face. But they do spend most of their time. They definitely prefer. And the male, the big dad, he's the worst. He never goes out in the winter. He's a big baby. So they do spend most of the winter indoors. They have holding space that's not on exhibit, so they're nighttime bed areas. And then we also have an indoor exhibit for them where the public can come and see them in the daytime.
Very, very cool. I'd love to see those pictures of them in the snow. That would be great. You mentioned no hair, which is really interesting. We do want to avoid frostbitten rhinos. That's not the best. But you're touching their backside there, and their skin is so thick. It's so armored. How thick is that skin? Do we have a measure on that?
I don't have an exact quantitative measure, and I think this species, it kind of differs depending on what you're actually looking at. The extra folds are just extra layers of skin. Okay. On top of another layer of skin. So I don't have it 100% quantitative. Basically, it's a couple of inches thick.
Wow.
Their skin layer. But as Farhan was mentioning, the tons of blood vessels and nerve endings right at the surface of their skin.
Yeah.
That helps to feed flies, unfortunately. I can pet the rhino. They can feel it if I'm touching them softly, and they actually love to be petted because of all of those nerve endings.
Nice.
And the blood at the surface of the skin is important, not for the flies, but for rhinos. They actually do not sweat. So that's how human beings cool themselves down. We sweat, nice breeze comes, and we feel nice and cool. Rhinos physically cannot do that. So they have a different means by which they have to exchange their heat. And one of the ways is actually having all that blood vessels at the surface of their skin. They can either release heat that way, they can go in the pools and cool down. If they were cool, they would send more blood to the surface where the sun's going to heat that up and then circulate back through their system. So important to have that big, thick layer of skin. As Farhan also mentioned, that skin layer is protection for this particular species. The white rhinos that we also have here at the zoo, those are the ones that have the two horns and they're massive. They're from Africa.
that species of rhino use their horn to fight and defend themselves. They can actually hook their horns underneath the back of another rhino and flip right upside down.
Wow.
So whoever's still standing is the winner. This species, though, do not fight that way. And you might have noticed when I was feeding them, Kieran might show us, he's got 2 little teeth on his bottom jaw.
Yeah.
His are little baby nubbins, but when he's about 10 years old, they will actually be about this big, about 4 or 5 inches out this long.
Wow.
Centimeters, I should be using that. But anyway, and this particular species gore each other. So the theory is having these extra skin flaps are going to help protect vital areas. So all this around your neck, probably going to help protect that very important jugular vein, right? This flap right here over his shoulder is going to help to protect his heart and lungs. And the flap over his hip there is going to help protect his kidney and liver. Now, again, no one knows that for certain, 100%, but that is the theory as to why these guys look so armor-plated.
Yeah, how cool is that? I'm really glad you mentioned the sweat thing. I find this really interesting that we are sort of take this as you will, public, but the champion sweaters of the mammal kingdom. I mean, that is sort of how we get around. It's why we're such efficient runners. And so it's the first time we've ever actually had that mentioned in one of our programs. So I appreciate that.
Well, along with that, the only other species that I know that actually sweat are the great apes or potential primates. We have our orangutans will get hot and sweaty on these days, and you can see perspiration on their forehead, but most mammals don't sweat.
Yeah, very cool. Our
They
close
have different ways of doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I noticed, of course, we've got, you're being very gentle with them and they're being very gentle with you, but we do have these big metal cords between you and them. Rhinos are famously a little bit cantankerous. Is that the case that you found? Is there a precaution in place to make sure people aren't in the enclosure with them? How does that all work?
Yep. So we work the rhinos through a method called protected contact. And as you can see, I have a lot of access to them. They have a lot of access to me. These guys in the wild, what I do here at the zoo, I would never hop on a, tour in India and jump out of a van and try to run at a greater one-horned rhino. Not at all. All of our animals here were born in zoo settings. So from day one, they have a really good understanding of what the keepers bring, which is food in our hands to pet them, which they love. So we have a really good rapport and relationship with them. The cables, of course, are to keep them where they need to be. When you weigh 4,500 pounds, you need something pretty strong to keep you in your place. They don't generally try to test it by any means. They don't try to break out of their habitat, but they do need to be contained within here. So we have a lot of heavy duty protection. But as I said, one of the main reasons we don't go in with them is they actually have terrible eyesight. If you take a look at their body parts, you'll notice they've got great big ears in relation to their body and giant nostrils compared to their eyeballs. Their eyeballs are actually very small. So they don't see well at a distance. And they also have a bit of a blind spot right in the front of their face. So if I was out here kind of breaking the paddock or not seeing well, creates the other senses to kind of tune in. So in the wild, if they smelled something or heard something, they can just turn on a dime and they're going to face that threat and kind of assess. They may charge at it as a scare tactic or run away if they feel that's the better option. So not being able to see well proposes the most hazard for us sharing their space. Aside from the fact that they are 4,000 pounds, they're a little heavy. If they were to shove me or whatever, I'm going to get hurt. So we don't play with rhinos as rhinos play with each other because that's a little dangerous. But yeah, if I was just breaking away in the paddock and they were out there, they probably wouldn't bother me. But if they got startled or scared and then perceived me to be the threat and charged at me, that would be a little dangerous. So we do work them through protected contact just so everyone is safe.
Yeah, what a fantastic answer. Thanks, Angie. I'm curious, I actually have a question specifically for Kenya now. So in this call program, you've had the chance to interact with many people in the zoo. Farham has mentioned you've gone around the zoo, you've talked with keepers like Angie. Is there something that unites people that are at the zoo, and specifically keepers, the people that work with animals on a day-by-day basis? You've had the chance to chat with these people. What's the message you'd bring back to your community about what that experience has been like and what sort of those people share?
The experience has been very positive. A lot of the people at the zoo are very passionate about the zoo and very passionate about the animals. So it's very loving environment.
Yeah, I love that you chose that phrase specifically. That's such a nice thing. It's something that I've had the chance to see. We've done, 30 plus broadcasts, and pretty much universally, everyone at the zoo loves their job. They love sharing it with the public, and so I'm really glad that's been the takeaway for you guys as well. Awesome. So again, we're in the last little gasp of our broadcast here. Is there anything that really jumps out? You guys have had the chance to be there live in person with these rhinos. We're doing this virtually. I'm very jealous seeing it through a screen. When you're on site in person, what's the takeaway? What's it like being near a rhino?
Well, being near rhino is, I just want to say, incredible, because for me, I didn't grow up with animal. This is like my first time actually getting close to one of the big animal.
Nice.
Being rhino is like one of my favorite animals since I was a child. I love how big they were, big horn. They look pretty cool in the nature. So actually seeing them in real life, how big they are, actually witnessing this is incredible. Especially if someone like me who never saw a big animal up close.
Yeah.
So actually get to experience them in real life is quite magical experience. Honestly, you almost don't believe that they exist. Like, honestly,
I love that. It's like, honestly, so, having been to the zoo myself, having been near rhinos, been near elephants, giraffes, all these huge megafauna, it's like something mythical. And one of the big takeaways I always have is they're so much bigger than you expect them to be. Even if you've seen pictures, even if you've seen videos, it's like, wow. Camels is an example of a creature that I've always felt that way. It's just like such a magnificent, huge creature. So it's my favorite thing about animals, and I appreciate you sharing that. Guys, we did have a question come in on YouTube, and I love this. So Maruf, his son is 7, and wanted to know, why do they have horns? So I know we talked about this at the beginning of the broadcast, but for someone who might have missed it, can you explain why rhinos have those horns?
Yeah, that's quite interesting. When I was doing some research about the rhinos, their ancestors actually didn't have horns. So it's quite believed one of the evolution line of rhino is basically protect themselves, because as you can see, they cannot see too well. So they have to use their senses in the nature to fight. That's why they actually grew those thick skin. And so it's since if they cannot see that well, so what they do is basically something actually startle them or something that scares them. They usually to charge at them or usually run away, right? Flight and fight. So it's one of those kind of evolutionary gains.
Yeah, awesome, guys. Speaking of rhino evolution, it's not something that we get the chance to talk about very often here, but rhinos' 2 closest relatives are the horse family, so donkeys, horses, zebras, and then tapirs, which most people have never heard of a tapir or seen a tapir. They're right next door to the rhinos at that exhibit right where they're standing right now. So if you do get the chance to go to the zoo, check out the tapirs. They're amazing creatures too. Got that cool upper lip thing going on. Really, really splendid animals. Guys, this has been so much fun. I really appreciate you spending your time with us today and sharing your passion for rhinos and for the zoo in general. So Farhan, Kenya, Angie, thank you so much. Hi, guys. And I'll say a big fare thee well. For anyone who's tuning in, again, 1:30 on the 26th, so just 2 days from now, we'll be doing a polar bear exhibit with Farhan and Kenya's colleagues just off camera there. So we're really excited to do another program as we wrap up our summer of climate action, learning, and leadership at the zoo. If you want to learn more, head to torontozoo.com. And what was mentioned as a great conservation organization for rhinos, if you want to do your part, is rhinos.org, the International Rhino Foundation. Really great resources. Check them out when you're done this broadcast, and I hope everyone does so. For now, I'll say big fare thee well. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and bye, everybody.